here from Shredded Physique. I can't even begin to explain how fast time has gone by. Like, we're already a couple weeks away from delivery, from seeing our little baby girl. It literally feels like we just found out yesterday, and time has just continued to go by faster and faster. So it's definitely been a very surreal, very like unexplainable journey that we have been through, and it's just getting closer and closer. We're getting more anxious, more excited to actually finally meet her and just have her here. It's been a great third trimester. I feel really, really good. I definitely have had days where it's been up and down in terms of motivation, fatigue, starting to get a little bit more uncomfortable in terms of, you know, sleeping, trying to actually stay rested for a full night. As you know, time has progressed and stuff, your body's changing, lots of new things happening. I've still been having a little bit of that dull back pain, pelvis pain, but overall I haven't felt as tired as I expected to be. And I know a lot of moms say that usually your third trimester is much like your first, where sometimes, you know, you have morning sickness that comes back, being more tired, less motivation, things like that. But I actually have felt really good, surprisingly, in terms of training. I'm still training at least 4 times, if not 5 times a week at the gym, still walking, still, you know, doing weight training. I've had to kind of ease up a little bit on my weight training, just certain exercises that I was doing, certain types of weight that I was using. I was just feeling more of that pelvic pressure. As I kind of mentioned in my last vlog, when you're actually training, you're always engaging your abs and stuff. So just different exercises I was doing, I was feeling that tightening kind of going on, which didn't feel very good. So I just kind of had to adjust some of the things that I was doing, but still making it work. And there's days, don't get me wrong, I'm tired as hell and I don't want to go, but there's days, you know, I've managed to power through it, and days I'm really not feeling it, days I know that I need to be taking it easy and resting, listening to my body, and, you know, taking those naps throughout the day as I need to, skipping a gym day, whatever the case may be. So in terms of physical activity, that's still been looking really good. And as I've told clients, and even the doctors told me, is unless there's, you know, some medical issues going on, you're at a high risk pregnancy, you need to be on bed rest for whatever type of medical reason, there's no reason why you should stop training throughout your pregnancy. And if you're unsure, again, is just speak to your doctor about those concerns and what that's looking like. But as far as everything's been looking for me, is I've been given the go to basically train as long as I can no longer train, pretty much until she's here. So just kind of taking it day by day right now, seeing how I'm feeling, listening to my body, taking it easy when I need to, which is my best recommendation for any of you other fit moms out there, or if you're just starting out in your own journey, is just follow suit with what your body needs, what your body is telling you. As you can see, we had our baby shower. That was really exciting. It was really nice to be able to spend that time with family and friends, and she definitely got spoiled. Got lots of nice little, you know, clothes and socks and toys and all sorts of stuff. So we're definitely grateful for having that and having everybody come together. So it was really nice having that. And again, thanks to everybody that came out for our special day and was able to, you know, be a part of that for us. Definitely starting to feel baby a lot more in third trimester, which is always an exciting feeling. I always just love feeling that she's there, and I think honestly, for my own personal experience, that's probably going to be one of the biggest things that I have a feeling I'm going to miss, is just feeling her, feeling the movements and stuff. It's been really cool feeling her and just progression going through pregnancy, and even the last, I want to say within the last 3-4 weeks, actually experienced her having the hiccups, which has been really cool, and just again a new experience, which has been, you know, kind of fun and interesting to have gone through and experienced just a new feeling. So it's definitely been something that's been really, again, surreal. And I know everybody's pregnancy is different, everybody experiences things a little bit differently, but for me, I think that's definitely one of the biggest things that I'm gonna miss. Of course, I'm gonna love having her here and actually being able to see her and finally have it be that, you know, she's here and taking away from some of the little minor discomforts that I've had. But overall, it's definitely been exciting, and it's gone by super fast. So some things I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. If you're a brand new mom, or maybe you're in your second trimester coming into your third trimester, I'd highly recommend going to a prenatal class. That was something that we did, I want to say last month, and definitely found it super, super beneficial. There's tons of things that you could read. We have a baby book. We've learned what to expect week from week, but having gone to the class, we were actually very fortunate because the lady that did our class, she was not only the childbirth educator, but she was a doula as well as a lactation consultant. So she was certified in different areas, which definitely helped some of the questions that came up around breastfeeding, around, you know, birthing, delivery, those sorts of things. So it was really beneficial, and I feel that we took away a lot of things that we would have never even thought about, and a lot of things that most people probably wouldn't have even known, or even that your doctor would just tell you on a day-to-day basis. So it definitely helped us, and I'm again recommending that if you're getting closer to, you know, coming into your third trimester, is definitely talk about it with your spouse. And it's definitely something that is super beneficial, not only for things for mom to know, but also for dads too, for them to be supportive of you, things that you guys are able to do together, decisions that you're able to make, and what that looks like in terms of him being able to support you. And he's going to be your biggest cheerleader through labor and delivery. So having him understand things that he can do to help ease you, aside from just being there holding your hand and or maybe pestering the shit out of you. There's going to be just different things that you guys can do together to help cope with the labor and delivery and make it a little bit easier on mom. So one of the first things that I want to talk to you guys about is the importance of a birth plan. And this again was something that we were like, whatever, we didn't even think about it, haven't really talked about it. And having a birth plan prior to going to the hospital is just going to make your pregnancy, or is just going to make your labor and delivery so much easier. When mom's kind of going through the motions, going through active labor and getting ready to prep for baby coming, it's just going to make the stress so much easier on mom, you know, when there's nurses and doctors right there in your ear asking you questions, and do you want this, do you want that, and mom's kind of focusing on the pain and breathing, and there's just so much going on. If you have everything kind of planned out and you're able to give it to the nurses and the doctors, and they're able to see firsthand what your requests are, it can often alleviate a lot of those unnecessary distractions and questions, and, you know, make the bonding time for mom and dad a little bit better in terms of going through the contractions, going through the whole labor process. And is just actually taking time to think about the things that are important to you. You know, what are some of the things that you're definitely not willing to compromise in terms of your delivery? Is it, you know, a C-section over a vaginal birth? Is it going to be pain management versus having none? Is it going to be special requests for the room? You know, special requests for having certain types of people in your room for your delivery, whatever that looks like. Talk about it. Having that plan worked out in advance, again, is when the nurses and doctors are throwing so much at you, is that can actually stall your labor, which we found a little bit mind-blowing too, is because, again, you don't think about those things, right? So what's super important is just to know and understand what things are important to you, what things you value, and things that you can just present to the doctor and the nurses, so that as things are progressing, they already have it in front of you to know not to ask those questions. And not only so that they're not interrupting you, but, you know, if for whatever reason, say you're, I don't know, having a C-section or something, whatever, or you're out of the room, you need to go for a walk, you're dealing with contractions or something, if dad's present and dad understands the birth plan and knows that there's special requests for mom and what those are, that they're able to just directly ask him instead of having to chase you down the hallway when you're trying to cope with going through a contraction or whatever. So having a birth plan is going to make it really, really easy, a little bit more stress-free when you guys show up a little bit more prepared and what that's going to look like. One of the things too is coping with labor pains that she talked about. That again is going to be super beneficial for not only for you to understand, but for your partner, some things that he's going to be able to do to help support you, help alleviate a little bit of that pain and discomfort from you, different pressure points, pushing on your hips, pushing on your sit bones, things like that we covered in class. That again, it might not feel good for me, but it might feel good for somebody else. So it's just understanding different types of positions that can sometimes help cope with the contractions, can help cope with the pain. Getting up, walking around. I've often heard, even from some of my friends that have had babies, is that your body just kicks into overdrive and just knows what to do, whether that's doing high knees, whether that's pacing back and forth, maybe you want to bounce on a Bosu ball, maybe you want to go on all fours, rock back and forth. Again, have hubby put his palms on your hips and apply some pressure, whatever that might look like. Some people use TENS machines, some people use massage rollers on mom's back to, again, just have that mental distraction that's going to help with the contractions and stuff. So understanding different types of movements, going through labor, changing positions, getting up, moving around, what that's going to look like. So it's not necessarily just educating you on when to go to the hospital, when your water breaks, blah, blah, blah. There's so many different aspects of going through a prenatal class that they cover that, again, sometimes you can read a baby book and not know or understand or be able to take away new information, as we did. So another thing is pain management. If you're like me and you're a new mom and you're terrified of giving birth, you're thinking about labor, you're thinking about pains, the contractions, you hear all these horror stories, you see all these videos and stuff on YouTube, and it's very, very scary, is understanding pain management, different types of pain management, the pros, the cons, what that's going to look like for you, and really understanding, doing your research in which each of those entails, and just again the different risk factors. And so there's 3 different phases. The first one is going to be where they usually offer you some sort of laughing gas. So if you've been to the dentist, if you've ever had the mask on where they give you the oxygen and the gas, that's going to usually be the first go-to that they're going to offer you at the hospital. Some women like it, some women don't. The one benefit in getting the oxygen is it's actually helping you breathe through contractions, because as you're getting the laughing gas at the same time, you're getting oxygen, which is good, because I've often heard, and even our instructor said, that when women tend to get contractions and they're feeling that pain, they tend to hold their breath. They cringe, they're just in so much pain, they don't want to think about it. So in getting the laughing gas, it can actually help keep that oxygen flow going. So that's one of the first things, and then they move into narcotics. So one of the things that's really common in hospitals that they're using nowadays, apparently I didn't even know this, is fentanyl, which, I mean, some of you might be freaking out thinking that's not good for me, that's not good for baby. It's obviously in a controlled environment. And another thing that I've heard, some hospitals still use it, some hospitals don't. I know our hospitals here, they still use morphine, so maybe your hospital does, maybe your hospital doesn't, but some type of narcotic they will offer you, again, in just coping with the pain. That's not saying that it's going to make the contractions pain-free, you're not be able to feel them at all, but sometimes it can help mom, and I don't know, I guess the groggy, dopey feeling that you kind of get from it. Again, I can't speak from experience, I can just speak from what was passed on to us. And then there's the epidural, which is going to be your highest risk factor. And if you're like me and worrying about it, you're like, nope, screw that, I'm going to get an epidural. I don't want to feel what's going on, I don't want to have no pain. That was my mentality too, and it kind of opened my eyes into understanding the epidural things that can and can't go wrong with having the epidural. We did see an anesthesiologist a couple months ago, which they go over all of the medical risk factors in terms of, you know, paralysis, point of incision, when you can and can't get an epidural, all that jazz, but they don't actually talk about the more immediate things that can interrupt labor or interfere with your labor. And the other side of it in being that when you get an epidural, there's not only muscle relaxants in it, but there is also fentanyl in it as well. So these types of drugs are actually passed on to your baby, which are not long-lasting effects, but there's something to be aware of, that they are there and that drug is being passed on to your baby. When you get an epidural, you're obviously frozen from above the waist down. So yeah, it's good in terms of not being able to feel baby coming out and feel any type of, you know, tearing or any type of pain, discomfort that's going on down below. But when you're actually at the point where you're ready to push and deliver your baby, is you're actually pushing at the same time as you're having a contraction. So when you're frozen, you're not able to feel how hard you're pushing. You're not able to feel when you're pushing. Are you pushing at the right time? The pressure of it. So you're more at risk of tearing, which, you know, can lead to a longer recovery postpartum. So that's something to be mindful of. Also, when I mentioned getting up, walking around in terms of dealing with contractions and being able to cope with the pain, different positions you can move yourself into when you have an epidural. You're pretty much bedridden and you're not able to get up and move around. Again, there is a muscle relaxant in there, so they obviously don't want you up walking around. And even having the epidural, they say that it can often even stall labor. So just some things to be mindful of, some things that was passed on to us that kind of made me open my eyes a little bit and not being so quick to just jump to the first thing. If you do have a high tolerance for pain, maybe just feeling it out, seeing how you are coping with contractions, how you are coping with the pain. And if it's something that you need, again, it's just knowing and understanding that it's something that you don't necessarily have to get this minute you get to the hospital, but it's something you can request, you know, when you're in active labor, halfway through, whatever that looks like. And just another thing to keep in mind is it can take time too. If the anesthesiologist is in another room and you're requesting the epidural, you might not always get it on time. So some pros and cons, some things to think about, and again, just knowing your research, knowing what that looks like and what's going to work best for you. Every single person is different, everybody's pain tolerance is different, so it's just understanding, again, what's going to work for you, the risk factors in anything that you're putting in your body. Another thing that often comes up to you, and even for me, is you're like, well, when the hell am I supposed to go to the hospital? So one of the things that she mentioned was the 5-1-1 rule. If your contractions are 5 minutes apart, lasting for, I think, about a minute, and then if they're progressing for an hour, that's usually your indication to go to the hospital. You can actually download apps and timing your contractions and what that looks like. And if you're unsure, they obviously recommend you go to the hospital. Like, it can be scary. We're feeling different types of pain, discomforts in our body that are new, we're not sure of. If you're unsure, you can call your midwife, you can call your doctor, or simply just go in and they're able to tell you, you know, what's going on. Some women can stay dilated for 1 to 3 centimeters for a couple days, a couple weeks. Everybody's different. So sometimes we can have Braxton Hicks contractions. I know some women, they have them in their 2nd trimester. Some women have them coming into their 3rd trimester. For me, I had them probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and they're basically, they say they're like practice contractions, where basically your body's prepping your cervix. So I don't know, I've read and heard that sometimes they're not painful, sometimes it's just that tightening and loosening of the abdomen. You can kind of feel that. Sometimes it's like followed by pelvic pressure. Some people say that they are painful. Again, everybody's different, but it is something to be aware of, something to be mindful of. There's Braxton Hicks, and then there's actual real contractions. So if you're unsure, it doesn't hurt to ask your healthcare provider. But when you are actually in active labor, you're roughly around 4 to 5 centimeters dilated. That's usually when you want to go to the hospital. Contractions are faster, stronger, and they're closer together. So remembering those 3 things. breastfeeding, again, we were very fortunate in having a lactation consultant as our instructor, so she was educated in that area of breastfeeding. So if you are a mom that's considering breastfeeding, what that's going to look like, very, very big tip that we took away was no bottles, no pacifiers for at least 4 to 6 weeks. So one thing that she said was, I mean, if you're in the event that you're having to run out or whatever and you have to pump and leave baby with a relative or dad or whatever, it's not saying that it's going to be a big deal once in a while, but when we mix bottles and pacifiers with breastfeeding, it can actually confuse the baby. So we have the nipple of the breast and then we have the nipple of the bottle. And when the baby is breastfeeding, the baby actually uses the tongue and the jaw work together. So when the baby goes to have the latch on, the baby's chin sits underneath the areola, which then the nipple comes into the baby's mouth, falls to the back of the throat, and allows milk to flow through. When we have a bottle, and if you think of a bottle and you tip it upside down, how the milk just gushes out is free flowing. The nipple of the bottle, the baby doesn't actually use his or her jaw to actually suckle out of the bottle. The baby's using more of his or her lips, sucking longer, sucking harder. So for those of you that maybe you are a mom, maybe you've had problems around breastfeeding, chances are you're doing it wrong. And I only say that is because our instructor said that women that complain of chapped heart or chapped, dried, cracked, bleeding nipples, those sorts of things, breastfeeding shouldn't hurt. So if you're having complications, if baby's actually not properly latching on, if you're having a lot of soreness, things like that, I mean, it is going to be sore to a point, just as your breasts engorge and stuff, as your body's making more milk. That's normal, but breastfeeding in general shouldn't hurt. So if you are mixing bottles and pacifiers with breastfeeding, again, that's causing some sort of confusion for baby in terms of how the baby's actually suckling from a bottle versus a nipple. So something to be mindful of if you, again, are wanting to breastfeed is just understanding that for the first 4 to 6 weeks, it's not usually recommended to mix the pacifiers and the bottles with breastfeeding until baby gets used to latching on, baby's, doing well with the breastfeeding and stuff. And if you're not sure, I would, again, recommend getting a hold of a lactation consultant. They can often come to the hospital if you're having problems latching on. The nurses and stuff, they're there to help you, but probably not as educated as a lactation consultant. So that was one of the things that she had recommended to us is, just being mindful of that and just understanding how baby should actually be taking the nipple and stuff, which, again, I kind of mentioned it, is making sure that baby's having that chin contact first, and then the breast is falling to the back of the throat, not just kind of popping baby on there and expecting baby to latch on and not having it hurt. So I found that really interesting. Again, with the delivery, she said it's not as common nowadays, but I guess before they used to take baby to the warmer, they'd do all their measurements, they'd clean baby, then they'd come back and bring baby to mom and have that skin to skin. Super, super important is directly after delivery, you want to make sure that baby has that skin to skin contact, whether it be with mom, whether it be with dad, right away. Reason for that is the baby synergizes with mom's energy, the baby syncs with mom's heartbeat, and regulates with mom's body temperature as well. So in taking the baby away, or if baby is initially getting that bonding time and then halfway through you're taking the baby away, even interrupting that first feeding, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, is when you take away baby and then bring baby back, baby actually has to go through that whole process again. So it actually interrupts that. So most important is after delivery, that skin to skin contact, again, having that wrote in your birth plan that's important to you, and unless there's medical intervention or reasons as to why they need to take the baby away, it's your right to make sure that they don't do that. Again, whether that be with mom, whether that be with dad, just making sure that baby gets that skin to skin is super important for bonding. Making sure that baby has that first feeding, usually within the first hour, they say, is most crucial. again, is just having that bonding time with mom and baby, making sure that baby is latching on, is going to help with that whole synergy process that I talked about. And again, if the doctors have another patient that they're wanting to see, they want to go have their nap, they're tired, whatever the case may be, unless there's medical reasons, or unless they need to medically intervene and take baby away, it's your right to say, no, you know what, you're not taking my baby until baby feeds. Whether that's 15 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, they're basically stuck waiting until baby gets that first feeding, and then it's okay for baby to go away, do its thing, and then come back to mom. So again, I just found that was super, super important and beneficial to know and just to be mindful of. So then there's the postpartum plan. So there's the birth plan and the postpartum plan, which are going to be hand in hand, go together. So there's going to the hospital, having your birth plan, you know, making sure that labor, delivery, all that is going according to how you would like to see it progress. But then there's also what happens when baby comes home. You know, maybe you have pets, maybe you have a dog that's really demanding, the dog needs to be walked 4 times a day, maybe you have cats. You know, cats are a little bit low maintenance, but they're still cleaning up the cat litter box, making sure they're fed, they're watered, all that sort of stuff. Maybe you have other kids as well that need to be picked up, dropped off from school, have classes, things like that. They need to be fed. So it's just having a postpartum plan, talking about those things in advance with your partner, what that's going to look like, what does the laundry schedule look like, what does meals look like, making sure that you and your partner are communicating so that you guys understand what that's going to look like. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be a huge adjustment for your whole family. Coming home with a new baby and stuff, especially if it's your first, just like we're going to experience, but making sure that you guys have those conversations ahead of time. It's going to help balance things out, making sure that you guys are equally sharing responsibility, making sure that the house is still being taken care of, and that you guys are kind of able to get on a schedule with baby and stuff. So that was another recommendation that she stressed, was having the postpartum plan as well. Even your meals, making sure that a couple weeks before going to the hospital you have meals prepped, planned, put in the freezer, whatever that looks like. And then just a couple other things I want to talk about. Perinatal massages. These are usually recommended to start at 35 weeks. You can do them yourself, you can do them with your partner. Highly recommend doing them with your partner. As mom gets bigger, it's going to be a little bit harder to see what's going on down there. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about the perinatal massages, but basically it's meant to help stretch and allow for, I guess, a more smoother transition for delivery, allowing that part of your cervix to gradually stretch, making it easier for delivery. Less likelihood of tearing. It's not to say that it's 100% certain, but it can just kind of help work that area so that it's not going to be you know, really painful and having all sorts of tears and things going on. Same with one thing that my girlfriend recommended was same thing around 35 weeks, making sure that you're using Primrose capsules. You can buy them at any drugstore over the counter. They say on the bottle to take them orally. I think it's like between 3 and 4 a day. What you actually want to be doing is poking a hole inside the pills and actually inserting these into your cervix. It's going to help soften your cervix, again, making it a little bit better for delivery, helping soften your cervix, especially, you know, if you're expected to have a bigger baby. It's the less likelihood of tearing. So it can help with those sorts of things. It's not always a guarantee, but it is something that you can do to, again, help protect your labia. So I hope some of the things that I shared with you guys was a little bit helpful. Again, if this is your first baby and you're just starting out, you know, it can be a lot of things to take in. There's so much information out there. You could read all sorts of stuff on the internet and ask your doctor a lot of things. Sometimes doctors recommend different things, one from the other. So just some different things that I took away from our class that I found was super useful, that, you know, the doctors aren't always just so quick to hand out and give that information to you. So I hope some of my tips have helped, and if you're just starting out your journey through pregnancy, If you're halfway through your pregnancy, or if you're going into your 3rd trimester and you're wanting to get a head start on what your postpartum plan is going to look like in terms of a diet and training regime, please reach out to me, shreddedphysiquesteam@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you, love to hear your journey. And if you, again, guys are just starting out, you have questions, concerns, comments, things for me, things even just different coping mechanisms, or if you're finding it hard to get motivated, stay in the gym, stay on track with your plan, again, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you guys in any way that I can. And for us, it's pretty much waiting the next couple weeks and waiting till we finally get to meet our little girl, and super excited to share that journey with you guys and what that looks like. Definitely going to be sharing my labor and birth story with you guys, and hopefully if there's anything that comes up that I'm able to give you guys some useful information and tips and things that I found helped get me through it. Again, everybody's going to be different, but if there's something that somebody can take away, even better. So yeah, pretty much until she's here, we'll be checking back in with you guys. But in the meantime, again, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, my email, shreddedphysiquesteam@gmail.com. And just thank you so much for those of you that have supported me and that have subscribed to my channel, that have watched me through my journey, and you guys have helped give me the motivation to keep going and be a role model and be an inspiration for all you other moms out there and stuff. So yeah, I'm just really excited to even share my postpartum training plan with you guys, what that's going to look like in terms of kind of getting back on the bandwagon and getting back in the full swing of things. So I hope my video has helped you guys, and again, thank you so much for those of you that are in support, and for those of you that are new just tuning in, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more information and updates. And until next time, stay happy and stay healthy. Thanks for watching.